Where you from?
Shelby.
You heard of Smokestack Twins?
Of course.
Good. I'm Smoke. No. You're not in no trouble. See, I'm trying to put some money in your pocket. See, I'm gonna need you to come sit in this truck right here. If somebody come and look a little too long, I want you to lean on this horn, all right? Can you do that for me? Can you tell time? And I'm gonna pay you 10 cents for every minute that I'm gone. Will that work for you?
Yes, sir.
No, ma'am. See, we talking numbers now. And numbers always gotta be in conversation with each other. You understand? You gotta negotiate. Now, 10 cents just won't work for you. Talk another number back to me.
50 cents.
20 cents. Best I can do. We got a deal? Good. Jump in.
Welcome to Money Unplugged. I'm Chris Hill. Thanks for being here. Have you seen the movie Sinners? That was the opening clip. Michael B. Jordan in Sinners. Great movie. I'm sure it's going to get even more attention once award season rolls around. Today on the show, I talk with Bryan Hinmon. He is the Chief Investment Officer at Maridea Wealth Management. And here's the thing. I know a lot of investors. I've worked with a lot of investors. I've interviewed a lot of investors. And of all those people, Bryan Hinmon is on the short list of being the most interested in investing. He has this nearly insatiable appetite for researching and analyzing businesses, and he's been like that since I first met him 15 years ago. We talked about his enthusiasm for investing, how that started, and it started early. But I'm going to let you hear that from him. So let's get into it with Bryan Hinmon. You grew up in Tampa, right?
My adolescence in Tampa. I was born in New Jersey, spent some time in Ohio and Maryland. So I really consider myself like a mutt, an East Coast mutt. And I may offend some people, but I don't declare Florida as my home. I like being associated with the Midwestern values of Ohio. So I tell people I'm from Ohio.
What precipitated all the moving around? I'm assuming your dad had a career that precipitated all of that.
Yeah, it was work related for my dad primarily. He was in the insurance industry, and it was his ability to sort of climb the corporate ladder in most cases.
Do you have an early memory of money?
Yeah, marbles.
Marbles?
As a kid, my parents, I'm one of three. I have an older sister and a younger sister. My parents devised a system to get labor out of us, I think. And we would earn marbles for doing different chores around the house instead of getting just a regular allowance. And we each had an empty peanut butter jar, a small sort of 4-inch peanut butter jar. And once we filled up the jar with marbles, we could exchange that for, I guess it was $3 at the time. The lesson I think really I took away from that was I love that, looking back on it, I love that it attached the idea of work to money and not just giving us an allowance. It also, though, sparks in me sort of the power of incentives because I remember scouring our house. We had a marble run toy and trying to find marbles of matching size so that I could get the marbles without actually doing the work. And I also remember going to Kmart, the local Kmart, to see if I could find marbles of the same size and maybe run the arbitrage. So buy a bag of marbles for $3. That would be like 4 peanut butter jars full. I can only imagine how far I would have tried to take that if I had Amazon at my disposal. But at the time, I only had a local Kmart.
I like that your parents came up with their own family currency. It's like, no, in this family, no, we don't go straight to American dollars. There's the Hinmon marble.
Yeah, they abstracted away the idea of currency there. It's also surprising to me that I didn't walk into the the Baskin Robbins and slap down some marbles on the table, demanding a scoop of ice cream or something like that.
I think that is the risk for your parents. But clearly they were like, no, we're just going to risk that. If our kid embarrasses himself trying to buy something with marbles, so be it.
They could have taught me that lesson.
Yeah. What was the first job you had when you were a kid?
I bagged groceries for public supermarkets. It has made me very persnickety about how my groceries are bagged. To this day, I do everything in my power to elbow away other baggers if they're there, because quite honestly, I do it better. Years of practice have made me pretty good at it. Those days, it was really all about earning enough money to pay for my gas and fund my social life as a 16-year-old.
I remember my first sort of light bulb moment when it came to bagging groceries, after sort of the obvious, like when you're a kid, like, oh yeah, you put the heavy stuff on the bottom and you don't want the bag to break. I remember David Letterman's late night show. He had, he would have stupid pet tricks. He would have all these, odd segments. And he had one time, and it was a grocery bagging competition. But the thing that stood out to me was he and whoever was the winner were talking about how the sign of a great, like a perfectly bagged set of groceries, the true sign is if you can take like a wire cutter or a razor blade, a straight razor, and just cut the edge of the bag straight down, the groceries don't fall out. They stand perfectly because you have packed them. Was that your level?
Sign me up for that challenge. I'm game for it. The one of the key strategies here, Chris, I'll let you in a little secret, is building sidewalls. Another thing to keep in consideration, obviously, is bagging like with like. So really the joy of a well-packed grocery bag is experienced at home when you go to unload it. Another key consideration, though, is that it has to stay intact in the trunk. And you don't know how people drive. The ability to pack it so that it doesn't just flop over and fall all over the trunk. These are real skills.
They actually are. Absolutely. Let's go to college. You went to Stetson University.
I did.
Degree in business administration and finance. Is that a double degree?
No, I guess finance was sort of just the concentration. I think the most interesting part about my choice of going to Stetson, which is it's a pretty small private school at the time. I think there were only 3,000 kids. I made the decision almost entirely because Stetson had at the time one of the only student managed investment portfolios, which was basically a gift that was left to the university with the rules that students actually get to make the decisions on how the money is invested. And the funny part of that is the donor, he was a man named Roland George. He didn't actually go to Stetson, so he wasn't an alum who just wanted to do right by his former school. He was just a wealthy guy, and he went around to a bunch of schools in the state of Florida trying to give this money away. And all the other schools he went to thought he was crazy and that letting students manage the money would be a horrible idea. But I love the fact that I could go in, and as a junior is when you could get into the program, I believe. As a junior, you could, be making investment decisions on a pool of money that had real consequences. And it wasn't a huge pool of money, but still it was the experience of your decisions being capital at risk.
So this is fascinating to me because I'm curious if you know what propelled this idea in Roland George. Because it's a good reminder, because now there are a lot of schools that have investment clubs and a lot of schools that have student managed funds. There's a member of the faculty who's executing the trades, but a lot of schools have these funds set up where the students are making the decisions, which I think is great. But, 25 years ago, that's not the case. So do you know why he had this idea? Because, again, at the time, it's not an idea that's all that popular. So I get at least some of the schools saying, what are you talking about? Why would we let college students manage money on behalf of the university?
Yeah, I don't know the genesis of it. I just thought it was the ideal opportunity for me to try and get some experience. I was very much in a hurry to become an investor. I'm not exactly sure why that was. I just, at the time I was a freshman to be making that decision, where to go spend the next 4 years of my life based on, in 2 years from now, I'll be able to be in this program and actually start investing, bigger sums of money. I guess I just saw that as the straightest line of getting there. So it was probably, honestly, it was back at Publix when I sort of figured out what a stock was. Publix is a private company, but they issued stock in the private company to employees who worked enough hours. I didn't work enough hours to get the stock, but it's where my exposure came. They would always put out publications on how the company was doing, how it was, the share price was rising and what the growth plans were. And it was probably about that time where I started to see, the value growing in that company. And I had an uncle, he was a lifelong bachelor of very modest means. He was a piano teacher for his entire life, and he never lived close to us, but he was always a fixture in our lives. So he visited constantly. He took vacations with us. He always sent gifts. I guess I started to realize that something didn't add up there, that this man of very modest means was able to do so much financially that I asked him about it. And he sort of introduced me to just the concept of, frugality and personal finance and the role that investing played in his life to afford him to be able to do these things that he loved. And so I think that was the moment that I sort of fell in love with it and, expressed that in saying, all right, investing is what I'm going to do. How do I get my hands dirty as quickly as possible? Which led me to Stetson.
I was going to say, you had to have figured this out in high school. If you are picking a college based on the ability to manage money as quickly as possible. Was there even a runner-up in terms of college choices, or was it like, no, this is number one on my list, and the minute they accepted you, you said, that's it?
Yeah, it was sort of Stetson or bust. I viewed a couple of other colleges and universities, but none of them offered this student managed investment program. And so, I was pretty dead set on going in that direction. And even that wasn't enough because I had to wait for my junior year. So, I think it was my sophomore year that I was convincing enough with a couple of other students and actually roped in a professor to start an investment club while in school. So, got started as quickly as I could.
Wait, so the club is separate from the student managed fund?
Yeah, it's like I was running 2 jobs and being a student here, Chris.
What was your parents' reaction to this when you're in high school and you are, because you made this reference earlier to you get the job at Publix so you can fund your social life. And anyone listening would be forgiven for thinking like, oh, that makes sense. You want to go out, you're a teenager, you get a car, you want to have some fun, go to the movies, go out on dates, do whatever teenagers do when they're in high school. That is a little bit at odds with a very serious mindset and a very serious pursuit of a singular goal. And I'm curious how your parents reacted when you're a junior or a senior in high school saying, this is where I'm going because this is what I want to do.
Well, they were always supportive. I mean, I chose a healthy obsession.
Right. There are far worse obsessions.
Yeah. And honestly, I think, they raised 3 kids. They were happy to have me out of their hair, working, to get whatever it was, $7.25 an hour at Publix, or, working my way up the pay chain there, spending time with my friends. When that was over, honestly, it was me running off to Borders Books and Barnes and Noble's bookstores and, reading Kiplinger's Money and Forbes and going to the investment section of the bookstores and buying books. So I think they were, happy that I had a healthy hobby.
I think I might have mentioned this to you before. I think we've talked about it before because when you were living in the Washington, D.C. area, you're a sports fan. you told me one time that you would sometimes go to Washington Nationals baseball games, and you would bring public company annual reports just in case there was a rain delay. You could break out, or a pitching change, back when the game of baseball was played at a slower pace, and you could get some work done. And I was going to ask you, when did your investing nerddom begin? And it seems like it was in high school.
Yeah, it was in high school. Honestly, it was once I engaged my uncle, and he shared the role that just being in control of his personal finances and investing early, how that allowed him to be a piano teacher for his entire life, something he loved, and afford a home, afford being a presence in the life of his nieces and nephews, and give him everything he wanted and everything he needed. I understood the power of investing and personal finance, and really embraced that. That led to he and I becoming sort of pen pals, where we would read a book and highlight and then send it off to each other. And just to give you, you're painting the picture here, like I had it all figured out. Let me give you an example here that shows that I was still, sort of a whippersnapper who had a lot to figure out. The first book he sent me was a book by Andrew Tobias called The Only Investment Guide You'll Ever Need. And it's sort of one of the foundational books on personal finances. It's very sound advice, applicable broadly, very straight and narrow. I think after he sent that to me and I read it, it was my turn. So the book that I sent to him was How to Make Money in Stocks by William O'Neill, which is essentially a trading strategy book.
Yes.
And to his credit, he didn't sort of chastise me for choosing that as the book to keep the chain going. He engaged me in it, and just embraced my interest and my curiosity, and sort of played the game. And so I matured over time, but that's where my mind was at the beginning was, okay, there's power in all of this, and I want to figure it out. And I was in a hurry, and I thought that was the quickest way there. And, I learned better.
As most people hopefully do as they age and get experience. Having poked fun at you with the baseball and annual reports, let me ask a more serious question. Absent the name of the company, you pick up an annual report of a public company. What's the first thing you're looking for? What are the first couple of things? Is it numbers? Is it the letter from the management? What do you look for in a vacuum in an annual report?
Yeah. One of the things that I've learned over my years is that it's very easy to look at a company and view it as this a monolith, view it as this thing, when in reality, it's a collection of people who are making decisions with a great set of resources. And I think I learned this business when I started my own hedge fund, shortly out of college, when I just sort of had the realization that, any idiot can open up a business and give it a go. Ultimately, what is going to matter to the success of the business, or at least a big contributor, is who are the people behind the scenes? Why are they making the decisions that they're making, and what's motivating them? And so the legwork that I can do to understand that early on is some of the most important legwork that can be done.
Before you start looking at year over year numbers.
Yeah, I mean, I think there's obviously a reason that I'm interested in a business, and so any set of filings that I pick up at the beginning, I'm going to know what the business does to some degree. So let's just assume that baseline level of knowledge is there. Yeah, the first place I go is trying to understand, okay, who's at the helm here? What are the recent decisions they've made and why? And trying to understand what motivates them.
If you love stock market data and you hate money, then you should buy a Bloomberg terminal. because they cost like $30,000 a year. Seriously. So if you don't have 30 large burning a hole in your pocket and you're still interested in the same kind of professional grade data that Wall Street analysts use, check out TIKR. You get the same kind of data the pros use, but TIKR makes it simple enough for everyday investors like you and me. It's already trusted by thousands of investors across America and around the world. Just go to TIKR, type in the name of a public company, and you will instantly see years of financials, analyst forecasts, and insider trades, all in one place. And you can try it for free when you go to TIKR.com/unplugged. You can use it to track big name money managers to see what they're buying and selling. Warren Buffett, he's still CEO for another few months. Yeah, let's see what Warren's been buying lately. TIKR gives you an easy way to get investing ideas and learn from the best. Save time, speed up your analysis, and try it for free when you go to TIKR.com/unplugged. That's TIKR.com/unplugged. It is the cleanest, easiest way to look deeper into any stock and also see what the pros are doing. So click the link in the show notes or go to TIKR.com/unplugged. All right, let's get back to Bryan. To what extent did you and your wife talk about money before you got married?
Not a lot beforehand, but as soon as we got engaged, those conversations started in earnest because I was interested in combining finances to try and be as open and honest and as I could be, and it just felt like the right decision. That was a big learning experience because when I went through that exercise, she's a little bit younger than me. I had been sort of graduated with maybe $40,000 in student loans and had been diligently paying them off. She still had student loans, and in the process of going through all of her paperwork, we sort of discovered loans that she didn't even know she had taken out. And so there were some surprises that were eye-opening and alarming. In that process, I sort of uncovered that she had maybe a little trauma from her youth related to money, that it was going to be a tough topic for us to talk about. And we had to figure out a way to get over that and to deal with that. At the end of that exercise, I was in a new place because I was sitting there with the woman that I loved and was about to marry, and now realizing that we together had about $100,000 of debt to start our life off with.
It is interesting, and it's something that's come up on this podcast before, that at some point, and sometimes it's when you're a kid in school, and sometimes it's when you're engaged to someone, at some point you start to realize, oh, not everybody grew up with the same mindset around money. Some people grew up in families that were much more open about this sort of thing, others less so. And but ultimately, I think it's always a positive sign when you encounter those bumps in the road and you find a way to get over them.
Yeah, definitely. One of the things that really helped us was, obviously, I have no problem talking about money. I've built my career around it. And most people are not like that. The thing that helped us was we set quarterly check-ins, and my job in those check-ins was to provide enough of the important information to her so that she felt that she understood where we as a family stood, but not so much that I quickly crossed over the fulcrum of her feeling overwhelmed by it. And I did not get that right at the beginning. That was definitely a learning curve to understand where and how to do that in the best possible way. But the outcome of that was I had a partner in attacking, that $100,000 debt. We were making the decision about how to spend our money and what was important to us so that we could reduce that debt over time, and ultimately get to a place where we felt really good about our situation.
I'm not happy that it happened, but I am glad that you used the word overwhelmed, because I think that is something that pretty much everyone can identify with, even if it's not in all areas of finance. Like there are areas of finance where I'm very comfortable, and there are other areas where I'm like, I think I'd rather go have dental surgery than go deal with this, whatever it is. But that's how it feels. That's how it's like,
absolutely.
Just let's tiptoe here, because, if we talk about this for much longer, then I'm just going to shut down.
Yeah. And to her credit, I think that she's done a wonderful job balancing me I would probably have approached this entire thing as a math problem. And I'd be
you 100% would have approached it as a math problem.
I'd be perfectly okay eating a can of chili for dinner and lunch every day for the next 5 years to be able to, quantify to the penny the level of debt reduction we're going to be able to achieve. And she takes a much more pragmatic approach and says, hey, we have a life to live. I don't want to press pause on life for the next, 5 or 7 years. I want to enjoy life. And so she's been a wonderful balance to me in that. And honestly, I've had a much more enjoyable life by taking that approach.
Smart man. All right, let's go to the speed round. What is a thing that you have bought that makes you happy?
Christmas ornaments. My wife and I love to travel. And from day one, we came up with the idea of buying a Christmas ornament to commemorate places we've gone. And so these are small and easy to transport, which is great because we pack light. But every Christmas when we get a tree and decorate, it becomes this wonderful walk through memory lane that just fills us up with great memories and gratitude and reminds us of all the the shared experiences we've had.
I love it. We have some of those, but we're not as methodical. But yes, it is that like annual early to mid-December, like, oh yeah, remember that trip? That was great. On the flip side, what is a purchase you've made in your life that you regret and sometimes you still think about it?
I have a hard time answering this. I'm a researcher and I'm not a big spender. So I think, honestly, if anything, I waste time and energy on small purchases. So maybe the regret is that I could be using that time that I spend diligently researching small purchases to much greater effect on much more important things. So that's probably the regret I have rather than some big purchase.
Oh, then you may not have an answer to this next question. What is the last thing you splurged on just for yourself?
I splurge on coffee. I have a coffee subscription. Basically, I have filled out a taste profile of the type of coffee I like, and over time given feedback to this service so that my tastes are dialed in. And every week I receive in the mail single origin coffee from small roasters all over the US. And so I don't have to ever worry about running out of coffee. It just shows up on my doorstep when I need it. It is always perfectly dialed into my tastes, and it's always a surprise where it's from. And I just love it. I can every day, every morning, I start with grinding my own beans and making coffee before anyone else is awake, and it brings joy into my life. And it's expensive, but I think worth every penny.
Absolutely, it's coffee. What is one thing about money that you wish you knew earlier in your life?
It sounds a little silly to say it because I feel like I did figure it out pretty early, but just the idea of compounding. The reason I wish I would have known it earlier is because I've sort of adapted or adopted the idea of compounding to everything in life, right? Becoming 1% incrementally better every day and the power that has. If I'd appreciated that earlier, not even applied to money, but applied to life, who knows where I'd be.
What is a charitable cause that you like to support?
The National Park Foundation. It's the nonprofit partner of the National Park Service. And it was set up to protect and enhance America's national parks, which are a treasure. John Muir said, and I'll probably butcher this, but said something to the effect of, in every walk with nature, one receives far more than he seeks. And I certainly have found that true. I spend as much time in the outdoors as I can. It makes me healthier and happier without fail. I feel very grateful to live here in Colorado with such beauty around me, but also in this country where we've prioritized parks and so many incredible and remote places are accessible. It encourages health, and I think keeps alive the idea of awe and wonder in me, and that's probably something we need more universally.
Yeah, and in my experience, wherever you live, if you travel somewhere else, the parks are just so different, and different in wonderful and amazing ways. Do you have a favorite movie or TV series that has money as a through line?
Movie is Moneyball. The application to investing is so powerful there, buying what matters and what's undervalued. Plus I love baseball and statistics. So it's sort of the Venn diagram there is like, I'm in the white hot center. TV show, it might be a loose association, but Arrested Development, the show is sort of about like the corrupting influence of money, the dangers of privilege. And it's just hilarious anyway.
Last thing is a penny for your thoughts. And this is just any bit of wisdom that you've picked up along the way in your life that you can share with people who are listening. It can be about money, but it doesn't have to be.
I guess it's that, the real way that you can maximize the value of the money you have is only if you have health and relationships. And people probably spend too much time on the money side of the ledger and not enough time on the health and relationship side. So some encouragement to do that. Also, it's always good for me to hear myself say that out loud so I can remember too.
There you go. A fellow coffee enthusiast. It's just one more reason I like Bryan. So the legal team at Bryan's firm asked me to read a disclaimer informing you that Bryan Hinmon is Chief Investment Officer and an equity owner of Maridea Wealth Management. He may invest in some of the same securities discussed here, so his views aren't completely impartial. Then again, really, are anyone's views completely impartial? Sorry, back to the disclaimer. Maridea Wealth Management is an SEC-registered investment advisor. Registration does not imply any special skill. No, if registration implies anything, it's usually, paperwork. All right, I'm going to put the longer disclaimer in the show notes, so consider yourselves disclaimed, people. If you want the full disclosures or you just want to get more information about Bryan Hinmon, go to marideawealth.com. I'm Chris Hill. Thanks for listening. I'll see you next week.